Okay, so let's dive into the absolutely bizarre life of the Maharaja of Pratabandapuram. We're talking about a king whose entire existence, his whole life, was built around a single kind of ridiculous prophecy. Now, he saw himself as this grand hero, defying fate. But his story, well, it ends up being a really powerful and actually darkly funny cautionary tale.
But hey, before we get too deep into this, let's just get one thing straight. If you were hoping to, meet this legendary guy, I've got some bad news. He's gone. As the story itself just bluntly puts it, the Tiger King is dead.
And that right there is where our story really kicks off. Because the way he died, that's a matter of some pretty extraordinary interest. It is filled with twists and just jaw-dropping irony. So the big question is, how did a king who was destined to be killed by a tiger finally meet his end?
To even begin to understand this guy, we have to start with his name. Or, to be more accurate, his many, many names. And right away, this gives you a little taste of the sheer scale of the royal ego we're dealing with here.
Okay, get ready for this. He could be called His Highness Jemadar General, Kildar Major, Sata Vyagra Samhari, Maharaj Arhiraja, Viswa Bhuvana Samprat, Sir Jalani Jung Jung Bahadur, MAD, ACTC or CRCK. Yeah, try saying that 3 times fast.
But lucky for us, that ridiculously long list is often shortened. You can just call him the Tiger King. And believe me, the story of how he got that name is even more incredible than the name itself.
Which brings us to the exact moment that basically sealed his fate. Just a few days after he was born, the royal astrologers made a prediction, and this prediction would echo through the king's entire life. It was pretty dramatic.
So, they declared that this child would grow up to be a true champion, a warrior of warriors. But, of course, there was a catch. He was born in the hour of the bull, and the bull's enemy is the tiger. So they prophesied his death would come from, you guessed it, a tiger.
And then a miracle happened. An absolutely astonishing phrase came from the lips of this 10-day-old infant. The whole court was just standing there, frozen, and the baby spoke again, confirming it. O wise prophets, it was I who spoke.
So this 10-day-old baby then demanded to know the manner of his death. And when they told him it was a tiger, the crown prince didn't even tremble. Nope. Instead, he let out this deep growl and issued a terrifying warning that would basically become his life's motto. Let tigers beware.
And you know what? They really should have. Because when the prince came of age at 20, he remembered that prediction, and it kicked off this obsessive, single-minded quest to defy fate itself.
He set a goal for himself, a nice round number. He decided he was going to kill 100 tigers to prove that prophecy and the prophets were completely wrong.
And if you want a perfect example of his staggering arrogance, get this. He banned all tiger hunting in his state for anyone except himself. Think about that. The governance of an entire kingdom was put on hold for his personal vendetta against a single species.
So the hunt began right away. He killed his first tiger and was absolutely thrilled, even though the astrologer gave him this ominous warning to be super careful with the 100th one. For 10 years, this obsession just raged on. He killed 70 tigers until, oops, his own kingdom was completely out of them. But did a little local extinction stop him? Of course not. His solution was as pragmatic as it was totally insane. He told his chief minister to go find him a princess from a state with a ton of tigers. And just like that, the hunt continued, bringing his bloody tally all the way up to 99.
So this brings us to the final, most crucial animal. The king's anxiety was at a fever pitch. He was so close, but that 100th tiger, the one that was supposed to seal his fate, was just nowhere to be found.
The king's rage got so bad that officers were losing their jobs left and right, and he even threatened to double land taxes. So his terrified Dewan, his chief minister, fearing a total catastrophe, decided to take matters into his own hands. He arranged for an old, weak, decrepit tiger to be brought all the way from the People's Park in Madras.
And this brilliant plan, well, it was executed with all the grace you'd expect. Picture this, the Dewan and his wife, in the middle of the night, dragging this geriatric tiger into their car and then literally shoving it out into the woods near the king's camp. The poor thing was so old it just stood there, probably wondering what on earth was going on.
Okay, so the stage is set for the king's grand triumph, right? But this is exactly where the story delivers its masterstroke of dramatic irony.
This is how fate, in its own hilarious and cruel way, finally caught up with him.
So the next day, this old tiger just kind of wanders into the Maharaja's presence. The king takes careful aim, he fires, and the beast just collapses in a crumpled heap. The king is overcome with joy, declares his vow fulfilled, and storms off, ordering the tiger to be brought to the capital in a grand procession.
But here's the twist. When the hunters get closer, the tiger looks back at them, totally baffled. The king's bullet had missed completely. The tiger had simply fainted from the shock of the sound. Now the hunters, absolutely terrified of what the king would do if he found out he'd missed, they realized they had to act fast. One of them took aim from just a foot away and shot the tiger, killing it for good. The king never, ever knew he had failed. So a few days later, with his quest seemingly complete, the king bought a gift for his son's birthday, a cheap, poorly made wooden toy tiger. And as he was playing with his son, a tiny little sliver of wood from that toy pierced the Maharaja's hand. That tiny sliver caused an infection. It spread all through his arm, and they called in 3 famous surgeons. They operated, and afterwards they came out and announced, with perfect deadpan irony, the operation was successful. The Maharaja is dead. So you see, the crucial point here is that this isn't just a funny, tragic story about one man's obsession. No, it's a really sharp satire, and its targets are clear, they're powerful, and they're still incredibly relevant today.
You know, this story is just a brilliant takedown of the arrogance you see from people in power. It's really targeting the princely rulers of British India. These were kings who had immense wealth and local authority, but they were stripped of any real responsibility, like for war or foreign policy. So what happened? Well, it often led to these lives of extreme indulgence and bizarre vanity projects, just like the Tiger King's obsessive hunt. It's a critique of how absolute power corrupts, turning rulers into tyrants and their subjects, like that terrified Dewan, into bootlickers. And underneath it all, it's a tragic commentary on our destructive relationship with nature, all wrapped up in this darkly funny lesson that, well, maybe you just can't escape your fate.